China Cantner with Paul Cantner. Before the birth, when someone asked what she planned to name the baby, Grace reportedly joked that she should choose God with a lowercase g, so the child would not grow up with too much ego. In the end, the birth certificate said China. Years later, China would grow up to become an MTV VJ and an actress. Then, in 1976, Grace married Jefferson Starship lighting director Skip Johnson. That marriage lasted much longer, but it also came to an end in 1994. Behind the sharp humor and the bold public image, there was also real despair. Grace has spoken about a suicide attempt. She came close to death more than once. By the cold math that seemed to follow so many hard-living rock stars of her era, she was not expected to survive. Janis Joplin died at 27. Jimi Hendrix died at 27. Many of Grace's friends and peers never got the chance to grow older. By every expectation of that world, Grace Slick should not have made it out of the 1970s, much less into old age. Still, she did. Around 1990 or 1991, at almost the same moment she stepped away from music for good, she got sober. Even more remarkable, she stayed sober for decades after that. When she talks about how it happened, she does not dress it up. She simply says she decided the party was over. For her, that decision held. In her telling, there was no elaborate transformation story. There was just a clear moment of recognition. She had already done it all, seen what that life offered, and reached the point where she no longer wanted any of it. The same force in her that could leave a #1 band also helped her leave the bottle behind. The second act, nobody expected. Quitting? In 1985, Grace Slick did something that almost no one saw coming. At 46 years old, while fronting Starship, she scored a #1 single. We Built This City reached #1 on November 16, 1985, just after her 46th birthday. At that moment, she became the oldest woman ever to sing lead on a Billboard Hot 100 chart topper. Then, Starship kept going. Within 2 years, the band collected 3 #1 hits with We Built This City, Sarah, and Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. Commercially, she had reached the highest point of her career. By then, she was also about a decade older than the people around her in the band, and then she made the decision that defines this part of her life. She quit. In 1988, she left Starship. Then, after a brief reunion with the original Jefferson Airplane in 1989, she retired from music completely in 1990. Her reason for leaving was pure Grace Slick, and she never softened it. She believed older people looked silly on a rock stage. To her, rock and roll belonged to the young. In her view, it came out of sex, rebellion, and raw energy. And once age changed that energy, the performance changed too. She had no interest in standing in front of a nostalgic crowd in her 70s or 80s, singing White Rabbit. She decided long ago that she would never become that version of herself. Over the years, she sharpened that belief into something close to a rule. In her mind, rock musicians should retire at around 50. Because the form itself depends so much on youth, that view remains unusually hard and unusually consistent, especially in an industry that now relies on legacy acts touring deep into old age. What makes it even more striking is that she never created an exception for herself. She applied the same standard to her own life and kept it there. So she stopped, and she stopped by choice. She left while still successful. She walked away on purpose. Then she kept that promise for more than 35 years. No reunion tours followed, no farewell circuits appeared later. No return came once the money got tempting enough. You will not find Grace Slick on a stage in 2026 because she decided back in 1990 that you never would. The longer you sit with that choice, the more unusual it feels. The music business is built to keep famous people performing, for as long as they can still stand under the lights. Many artists announce retirement and return soon after. Farewell tours often turn into comeback tours. Huge money gets offered again and again to anyone with a famous song and a loyal audience. Grace Slick walked away from all of that. She left behind a machine that would gladly have paid her millions to keep singing a song she does not even like. And she never went back. The Fire and the Brush. Then, in 1993, Grace Slick's house in Marin County burned down. The fire was reportedly caused by a road crew working nearby. It destroyed most of her possessions, along with much of her music memorabilia. In a matter of hours, decades of life were gone. Around that same period, her second marriage was also coming apart. So she moved south to Malibu. Then, to get through the wreckage of that period, she picked up a paintbrush. What began as therapy slowly became the entire second half of her life. Grace Slick has now spent roughly 3 decades as a professional visual artist. At this point, that chapter has lasted longer than her music career did. Her years as a painter stretch from the mid-1990s into the present. Her work has been shown in galleries across the United States, including Wentworth Gallery and the San Francisco Art Exchange. It has also appeared at auction, where signed serigraphs and lithographs have been sold in editions of 300 and 500. Some of those pieces even include lyrics from the same song she has said she does not like. The subjects she paints say a great deal about who she is. Again and again, she returns to Alice in Wonderland. Above all, she returns to the White Rabbit, the figure that became her lifelong avatar. At times, she has reimagined that rabbit as Rescue Rabbit, a caped character she uses to support causes such as marijuana legalization and animal rights. She also paints portraits of the dead: Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Jerry Garcia. She paints the friends and peers who never got the extra decades that she did. That gives the work a quiet, emotional weight. Grace Slick survived, and many others did not. So whenever she paints Janis or Jimmy, some part of that painting carries the simple fact of survival inside it. Even then, Grace remains refreshingly plain about the art itself. She says she has no single style. In fact, she says she has around 15 styles, which frustrates galleries because they want artists to be instantly recognizable. She never wanted that kind of signature. She has said so directly. In her view, many artists settle into a look that makes their work easy to identify, but she never felt drawn to do that. She preferred movement. She preferred variety. And sometimes, she admits with amusement, her agent simply wants more white rabbits. So she paints more white rabbits. She works across different media, though she is especially associated with vivid scratchboard and serigraph work, often filled with rich color and a slightly surreal feeling. Her sense of color can come from almost anywhere. She has said that she might be watching television, see a beach in a commercial, notice the tans and blues, and decide to use those colors in a painting. The color may begin with sand and sea, yet end up on the white rabbit's coat. For her, inspiration is not sacred or dramatic. It can arrive during an ad break. She talks about her process in the same grounded way. She has described putting an unfinished painting in front of the television, watching TV, glancing up at the canvas, and slowly realizing what is wrong with it. That is the process. She keeps looking until the answer becomes clear. There is no grand mythology around it, no heavy mystique, just attention, patience, and a willingness to keep working until the image settles into place. There is also something quietly moving about the life she built through painting. For years, Grace Slick was known for one of the strongest voices in American rock, a contralto that Paul Kantner once said could knock birds out of the sky. Yet for the whole second half of her life, she chose an art form that makes no sound at all. The real 86-year-old Grace Slick lives in Malibu. She paints every day. She has been sober for decades. She follows a nearly vegan lifestyle, though she has happily admitted that she will still destroy a chocolate cake if it looks good enough. She does not exercise. She does not take dieting very seriously. She finds the celebrity obsession with looking forever young absurd. She has no interest in pretending to be ageless. She is content to look like an 86-year-old woman because that is exactly what she is. Her honesty about her own mind carries the same directness. She has said her memory is, in her own words, just dog do, and that it always has been. She says she cannot even reliably remember the lyrics to her most famous song unless she looks them up. She can paint the white rabbit with ease, yet she cannot sing White Rabbit from memory. Somehow, that detail feels exactly right. Her thinking about money may be even more radical than her music once was. She has criticized the culture of entitlement and debt-driven consumption, and she often offers herself as the example. In her view, people should not expect to own things they cannot afford. She has joked that she would like a helicopter, but since she cannot afford a helicopter, she simply does not buy one. She bought her Ford Hybrid with cash. So the so-called acid queen turned into a woman who pays cash for a practical hybrid and tells younger people to live within their means. It is not the kind of detail that turns into myth, but it says something real about who she became. She has also been generous with the money she made. Proceeds from her art have gone toward animal rights and environmental causes. She has used her Rescue Rabbit character as an advocacy symbol in campaigns connected to animal welfare and marijuana legalization. Her net worth has been estimated at around $20 million, built through royalties, songwriting credits, and 3 decades of painting. Because of that, she never needed to return to touring just to stay financially secure, and that freedom helped make her retirement permanent. At the same time, her wit has stayed fully intact. Interviewers who meet her at 85 and 86 often come away saying the same thing. She is still exactly herself. She is funny, coarse, opinionated, and entirely uninterested in pleasing people. The woman who helped write one of the great anthems of the counterculture, then later dismissed it as a weak draft, still refuses to play whatever role the world assigns her. In one recent interview, when asked about modern pop stars she is sometimes compared to, she responded with the same breezy lack of concern that has defined her for decades. She has spent 60 years being unbothered, and that has not changed with age. She has also made it clear that she does not miss the old life. She does not miss the stage. She does not miss the fame. She does not miss the applause. She once said applause is interesting, but she is a monster with or without it, meaning that her sense of self was never built on the crowd in the first place. That kind of honesty is rare in any performer, and even rarer in one who truly means it. It also helps explain how she walked away in 1990 and never looked back. Her life was never rooted in the approval of strangers, so losing that approval cost her very little. Her honors remain secure. In 1996, she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of Jefferson Airplane. She has also received the Recording Academy's Lifetime Achievement Award and earned multiple Grammy nominations. She does not need a comeback to confirm any of that. She has already had the career, survived the collapse, built the second life, and kept her word. That last part may be the rarest thing of all.